What's going on, guys? We've taken a look at the big brother. Now it's time to look at the little brother. Today, it's the OCPC Mini Case. Now, as you can see, this is designed for mini ITX motherboards. It's the same open frame type design that we saw from the micro case, obviously just in a much more mini fashion. Now, unfortunately with this one is it doesn't take full-size ATX PSUs, but you wouldn't want it to. The whole point of a mini ITX build is to save space, make things smaller, so that's what they've done with this. As you can see again though, obviously full size 120mm tower support there. We've got our PCI extender cable because we've got the graphics card mounted on the back. Again, with this case, whereas the micro case was a bit bigger, the motherboard was rather, you could install the graphics card on the front in the motherboard like you normally would. Unfortunately, if you can see here, it's not possible in this case because the PCI slot is right on the bottom. It's right on top of the PSU shroud, so there would be no room to actually install a graphics card there even if you wanted to. So with the Mini, you are left with no choice but to mount the graphics card on the back side of the case. But again, it's not an issue. It's exactly how the case is designed. It's just something to take note of if you have watched our micro video previously, that you can't do that in this. But again, it's all the same thing we saw, except it's tiny. It's ridiculously small, and this is which I like it. I am actually in the process of setting up one of these. I need a bit better hardware before I do it, but I'm going to use this for my secondary streaming PC. So I'll have like my normal PC there, and then this little bad boy, when I want to stream, I can just stick it on top, plug the capture card and a couple other things into it, and be good to go. Again, this takes the small form factor power supplies. So we've got our little mini power supply here. Luckily for us, these power supplies have come a long way in the past few years, so you can get one that'll pretty much power any graphics card you could need, because there is no real restrictions on what graphics cards you can use. Now it is this, as long as they're 2-slot, I should say. So with the micro, it fits 3-slot graphics cards. This one, pardon me for messing about, only fits 2-slot graphics cards. Obviously, you could mod it, you could do a few things. You need to make a couple cuts with a Dremel. It wouldn't be hard to fit a bigger graphics card in there, but that's not how it's designed, so just be aware of that. But again, it's not an issue. It's meant to be small and compact, yeah? That's the whole point of it. You're not really, most people, I should say, aren't looking to put a 4090 in with an ITX build. Some people do, but generally they want something small, compact. So there's not really much point in having this little tiny case if your GPU is going to be hanging out here somewhere. It, in my opinion, defeats the whole purpose of the case. Now, with this one as well, I have gone and mounted a 2.5-inch SSD in the bottom here. That is because my hardware is a little bit old and it doesn't have an M2 slot on the motherboard. So while it works perfect for the build, yeah, there's no M2 slot. But again, this is fully mounted through the bottom. Obviously, when you're building it, you can lift it up. A couple screws in there, put your 4 screws in there right next to the feet and stuff, so it stays mounted there. It's not going anywhere. Again, my only real gripe about these cases is there's nothing to kind of hide the wires, especially on this one. It's a bit more open, but unfortunately it kind of needs to be, because as you can see, the PCI extender cable kind of comes out the back a little bit. So depending on what build you're doing, obviously these cables do come in different lengths, but for this build I've used the OCPC one, as you can see. So it's a tiny bit longer than what it needs to be to fit everywhere, and as such, the excess cable does stick out there. Again, for where the hard drive, SSD, whatever you want to call it, is mounted, these cables come out a bit too, so it would be kind of hard to have a whole blanking plate here, even though I do think that in the future there is some way that OCPC could implement that, hopefully at least. I mean, even if it's an additional bracket of sorts that you spend an extra 10-15 bucks on, it doesn't come with the case, just having that option open and available would be amazing. But I mean, again, it's a small open frame case. There's not much more to say about it. It's got a very unique design. As you can see, it's there, but it's not tilting one way or the other. It's not gonna just like fall over from being lopsided, even if you put a bigger cooler on it. Now, of course, this one isn't really designed for an AIO, as you can see, because on the last one, it was a bit bigger. We had an AIO bracket on the back, but again, in future, there could be a way for them to include a bracket, whether with the case or purchased additionally, that mounts on here, that would allow you to mount the radiator on it, because then it would just be mounting the pump top and all that on the CPU, which really shouldn't be that big a deal. But again, it's a nice little case. One thing I will say is sometimes, depending on the power supply that you use and what screws it comes with, you may need longer screws. So for me personally, this bit of metal here is a bit thick. So by the time you get the power supply screw through it, there's not much left for it to grip into the power supply to hold it in place. Luckily for me, I've got loads of screws and thumb screws and stuff. So I had longer stemmed thumb screws that I've used in here. So just keep that in mind when you are looking to build in this case, that you may need different screws that come with your power supply. The ones that come with it may not be good enough. And it's not that they're not good enough, they're just not quite long enough to fully bite on the threads inside the power supply when they've gone through this bit of metal here. Could they make the metal a little bit thinner there? They could, but obviously this is one piece of metal. It's been from here all the way down to here. It's just kind of bent and shaped how it is. So it would be a lot harder. They'd kind of have to cut this piece off here and weld or something, mount another piece of metal here, which it seems like a lot of extra hassle and would likely raise the price of the case as well. So it's not really a feasible option. So just take note of it. Extra long thumb screws will do you good here. But yeah, again, this is the OCPC Mini. As you can see, it is definitely mini. It's not even half as big as the 20. I think that's my 2060 there. I can't quite remember right now. But it's either 2060 or the 3060. But as you can tell, standard two-fan graphics card, which is bigger than the case itself. So if you're in the market for something small like this, it's great. Again, you don't really need additional fans. You just need one on the cooler. And obviously the graphics card, and that'll do enough. It's open frame, so it'll pull enough air in from wherever it wants, and the air can just expel out wherever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to go up, down. So it will go out and it will do its job. So yeah, that's it. One last time, give it up for the OCPC Mini Case. If you haven't already, I do have a video on the OCPC Micro. Similar idea, almost exactly the same, but that one's for Micro ATX and this is Mini ITX. So make sure you check that out if you're interested in that. As always, thank you guys for watching, and please stay tuned in the future for more content.